Hello, I'm Sean Matthews, an 8th grader at McCarthy Middle School. Welcome to Ask the Superintendent. In this episode, we will field questions in school choice, fundraising, computer investments, and more. Jim, a resident with both middle and high school students, asks if vaping is permitted on public school property. If not, what proactive measures are being taken to address the increasing incidence of student vaping? He hears a lot of students are vaping in the Chelmsford High bathrooms during school hours.
Sean, thank you very much for bringing forward this important question, and this has also been a topic that's been under heavy discussion lately. Vaping is certainly not allowed in the Chelmsford Public Schools, and it's not allowed in other schools across the state. This is something that has really started to trend lately, probably within the last year or so. But in particular at the high school level, we've actually been having recent conversations about changing the way that vaping violations are enforced at the high school. The school committee is actually taking up the topic of changing the student handbook to reflect vaping being similar to having like possession of alcohol or any kind of an alcohol violation, where a student would actually be suspended as opposed to just receiving detention for vaping on the school premises. This isn't a significant concern right now at the elementary and middle schools in the district, but this does seem to be something that the high school kids are certainly experimenting with. And it is a very serious issue for the high school administration because they're trying to provide a safe and secure environment for students, and any kind of foreign objects and materials that are coming into the schools that they can't kind of control and monitor are certainly detrimental to the safety and well-being of the high school community. So over the coming weeks, this is something that actually the high school administration is taking the lead on. They'll be working with teachers to educate them on the seriousness of vaping, working with students to make sure that they're educated on some of the ramifications of vaping for personal aspects of it, but then also when it comes to enforcement and being proactive about enforcing students who are caught vaping on school grounds. That will be a topic of consideration excuse me, in the coming weeks. And you will be seeing some changes coming forward with the student handbook at Chelmsford High School pertaining to this specific topic. It's quite timely that this is coming up. It's certainly a topic that we'll be pushing some information out to parents as well to make them aware of what some of the challenges students are facing these days, what to look for, and how to actually help your children if you suspect that they might be kind of getting into this as a topic. So timely. Thank you very much for bringing this forward, and please do look for information coming from Chelmsford High School in the days and weeks ahead pertaining to this topic.
Hi, I'm Sarah Evans, an 8th grade member of the Student Council at McCarthy Middle School. Pete Malloy, a parent with elementary students, wants to know if the CHS Track team has any plans to use the new track at McCarthy for practice.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you very much for bringing forward that question. There is a beautiful track at the McCarthy Middle School, which certainly can be utilized by any of our sports teams. Oftentimes, this comes down to a scheduling issue, and the track team currently uses the Carson track, which is right outside the main high school building. A lot of that has to deal with the different equipment that's already at that track and its proximity to the high school. But there certainly is availability at the McCarthy track, which is a beautiful track for the teams to be able to participate on. One of the issues that we do have at the McCarthy track, unlike the high school track, is that the turf field is utilized in the springtime by the lacrosse teams, so that there would have to be some sharing of the space and some scheduling of the space to make it conducive to both programs being there. Another small issue that we'd have to overcome is moving the equipment either on a day-to-day basis, which would be very logistically difficult, possibly purchasing a second set of equipment that could be stored at McCarthy Middle School for the track team to be able to utilize when they're there. or coming up with some kind of an alternate plan that kind of incorporates both of those things. But the McCarthy track certainly is an excellent track. It's can maybe utilized by the teams if they so desire. I think the preference has just been to stay closer to the high school for proximity purposes, both to the school building and the current equipment. But that's certainly something that's open in the future. We have received a lot of inquiries from outside groups who are interested in renting the turf field at McCarthy, also taking a look at doing track programs on the track there. So I do think in addition to it receiving more access from our high school students, there will also be outside parties that are interested in utilizing that track in the months and years to come. So thank you very much for bringing forward that question.
A parent from outside Chelmsford with an 8th grade student wants to know how to apply for school choice.
Sarah, thank you very much for bringing forward this question regarding school choice. It's quite timely at this time of year. The Chelmsford School Committee will be taking a vote sometime late winter, early spring on allowing some additional students from other neighboring communities to be able to come and participate as Chelmsford students in our district. The School Choice Program is a statewide program that allows each community to identify a number of spaces for neighboring community students to be able to come into your district and participate as if the student actually lived in that community and take part in all the different educational program offerings that the community has to offer. So in Chelmsford, we currently have about 50 students across the district in the middle school and the high school that are school choice students. So most of these students come from neighboring towns. They might come from Lowell, Westford, Billerica, Tingsboro. There are different communities in the area where these students come from, and they participate and can avail themselves to the full Chelmsford High School, Chelmsford Middle School programs. Usually what we do is we try to keep that number at about 50 students who are coming in from surrounding towns to the school choice program. And we'll consider how many of our graduating seniors are going to be heading off to college or career at the end of the year, and then allow that many students back in either in the middle schools or the high schools for the following year. So this year I anticipate approximately 6 to 8 new students will be allowed into the district through the school choice program. If parents are interested in considering school choice, and you don't live in the Chelmsford Public Schools, once the committee actually makes the vote to allow those students to come into the district, there's an application process that's posted on our district website. Students apply, they provide different educational materials from their current district. If we receive more students than we have spots for, we actually hold a lottery, and then we'll actually announce the names of the 6 to 8 students. We'll contact the families directly who are going to be allowed into the Chelmsford Public Schools for the following school year. So it's quite timely. This is actually going to be taking place over the next couple of months, late winter, early spring, to allow some new students to come to Chelmsford in the fall. Thank you very much for that question.
A parent with elementary and middle school students was educated in India. They are wondering if the district would consider rotating teachers through all grades in middle school in an effort to make them more well-rounded.
Thank you, Sean, for this question. And this is actually a topic that does come up from time to time, but it's not something that we're considering in the district at this time. At our middle schools in particular, we have 5th and 6th grade teachers are kind of generalists. A lot of them teach math, science, English, social studies. When you move on to 7th and 8th grade, our teachers really specialize in a particular subject matter. So you might have a teacher that teaches 7th grade math, 8th grade math. You don't see a lot of that math-science combo or even ELA social studies combo when you get to 7th and 8th grade. We do have some teachers that will do looping from time to time, so you might have a 5th grade team that would loop and stay with a particular group of kids up in 6th grade, but typically that doesn't happen for more than a year if it does happen, and that's certainly not the norm, I think, in most education communities here in Massachusetts, and certainly not in Chelmsford as well. One of the issues I think you don't see a lot of that happening in our area or even in the United States in most communities is around different licensure requirements. So teachers have specific licenses to be able to teach specific topics and at specific grade levels, and that's something that we have to adhere to. We spend a considerable amount of time and effort professionally developing our teachers to really be content experts and educational experts in their field, serving their particular population of students. And that professional development and training would be exponentially greater if teachers were having to move from year to year teaching various subjects. So for continuity and consistency purposes, as well as our existing professional development and training programs, our teachers typically do not move grade level to grade level with the students, and that would not be something that we would be considering shifting to in the near future at least.
And now we'll go to Elizabeth Silva, who is on location.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Silva at Center School with Dr. J. Lang and Principal Fulreader. So, Dr. Lang, what does the principal search involve?
One of the things that we did over the course of the spring was assemble some focus groups. We wanted to invite parents into the school to talk about what they would like to see in the next principal of Center School. We had some staff meetings to talk with the staff about what they saw as the pressing issues, both for the coming year and even over the next 5 or 6 years at Center School. We wanted to get some opinions from the staff about what they'd like to see in a principal. And we put together an interview and a search committee of about 12 or 14 adults that actually helped take a look at all the different applicants that applied for the job, helped with the interview process with the candidates that came in. And that the whole process took about a month and a half to do. And we were thrilled at the end of the process. Dianna Fulreader came through as the preferred candidate here for Center School. So it was a long process. It was very involved. You want to make sure you involve all the stakeholders, the staff and the parents, to make sure that everyone's on the same page about the qualities that they'd like to see in the next principal. And I just couldn't be happier that in the end Dianna was able to come on board and be our next principal at Center.
What did you do before you were the principal?
I was actually an assistant principal in Groton Dunstable for 4 years and also in Tingsboro. And prior to that, I actually came into administration a little bit differently. I was an adjustment counselor and a social worker at a middle school.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
So is there any changes or programs you're doing right now at Center?
Couple things are happening in the school that are kind of big ticket items, if you will. We're really focusing on PBIS. I know they're doing that in all the schools throughout the district, making sure that we're being proactive in a behavior plan and pre-teaching expectations for students. The other thing that's really exciting is the FOSS science curriculum that's being rolled out, and really great hands-on science curriculum. So I know students and staff are excited about that as well.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Lang and Principal Fulreader.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And we'll go off to ask some Center School students some of their questions. Hi, this is Elizabeth Silva. I'm with Dr. Lang and 2 students, and we're in the Center School Library. So what are your names?
I'm Lexi. I'm in 3rd grade.
Okay.
I'm Miles and I'm in 4th grade.
Nice to meet you guys. So what's your question, Lexi?
If you had to add or change something about Center School, what would it be and why?
That's a good question. I don't know necessarily that I would change anything. I think there's a lot of good stuff that's happening at Center School. We mentioned a little bit earlier, I had an opportunity to work with some of the staff here last year to talk about what some of the needs of the school are, what some of the programming is. And I really do think Center School is going in the right direction as far as programming goes. I think there's a lot of great staff over here that really enjoy working with the students, and I hope you find that as well. This past year, when it comes to some changes, we did do some changes within the building. I know, Miles, you're a 4th grader, so you've been able to see the new modular classrooms that we have that you're probably in. We're going to be doing in the springtime, we're going to be doing some work on the outside of the building, adding some area near the playground and basketball courts and things like that. So that's going to be some change that's upcoming. But I actually think Center School's in a very good spot when it comes to working with the staff and students together. So I'll just be supporting Principal Fulreader, who's new to the school this year, and trying to make the experience the very best it possibly can be for the kids here at Center.
Do you have a lot of input of what happens at Center?
Yeah, I think at all the schools there's an administrative team that I'm part of that really take a look at what the existing programming is and what direction we should be going with to make sure that we're really providing the best education that we possibly can to the kids in the district. So it's a team effort. It's not just me. It's not just individuals at the school. But I think it's really everyone coming together to figure out what our needs are and how we're going to address those in the time to come.
Great. Thank you.
You.
All right, Miles.
What made you become a superintendent, and what is your favorite part about having that job?
When I was in school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise. So I knew that I liked working with kids. I knew that I liked education. I also knew that I liked working on projects, and I also knew that I liked some of the business aspects of my classes. So I liked math and science and things along those lines. And when I got out of college, I was trying to figure out exactly what kind of career I would like, and I had an opportunity to work in a school system. And being in that school system, I got a chance to see how work that I was doing at like a central office level was impacting and affecting individual schools and kids and classrooms in schools, and I really just enjoyed it. I very much like working with people, and all of my life, all of my different jobs have always been kind of revolved around working with kids, and I think just being within a school system and ultimately working as a superintendent just was kind of the perfect fit for me. So I very much enjoy the job. What was the second part of your question?
What is your favorite part about the job?
Oh, the favorite part of my job is when I get to actually visit schools. Sometimes, you can get stuck during day-to-day like office type work. But I think my favorite part of my job is when I get a chance to go out into the schools and actually take a walk through classrooms and see what's happening in the buildings, see how some of the decisions that we make at the district level are affecting kids and staff in the classrooms, and try to be able to get a really good first-hand sense of what's happening in our schools. I think that's what I like most is just actually seeing people, talking to people, and kids in particular, and just making sure that they're having a good educational experience in their schools.
Wow.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Do you guys know what you want to be when you grow up?
I'd like to be maybe a teacher.
A teacher, okay. No?
I don't really know.
You don't know? That's okay. Got time. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to Ask the Superintendent, and we'll see you at the studio.
Those were some great questions. Back to questions from our viewers in Chelmsford. A parent with middle school students, Maria Santos, asked, what does the district plan to have a one-on-one student-computer ratio in middle and high school? Is there a plan to add this kind of budget item for the coming year?
Thank you, Sean, for bringing forward this question, and this has actually been a hot topic lately. We've actually spent a considerable amount of funding over the last year or two to add a significant number of devices at the elementary, middle, and high school level of the district. Technology is ever evolving, and there never seems to be enough money to be able to buy different technology devices and get them in the hands of students, but that's certainly our goal. We have focused in the current year, the 2017-18 school year, and then also next year, the 2018-19 school year, a significant amount of our effort will be on infrastructure and making sure that the infrastructure that we have within the schools can accommodate all of these extra devices being added to the networks. As you know, most of our devices now are wireless. You'll see a lot of Chromebooks or laptop type devices, and instead of plugging them into the network, they're all connecting through wireless devices in the buildings. And a lot of our schools need to have their wireless networks upgraded, so we really have spent a considerable amount of money in the current school year and also next year to revamp and redo the wireless networks in each of our schools so that they can accommodate all of these devices. Each year, again, we're going to be adding devices to the buildings once the infrastructure is built out so that we can have more and more students actually having technology in their hands, being able to work with teachers, provide them the professional development that they need to be able to utilize the devices properly in their classes and move to that one-on-one type device. I think we're a year or two away from really seeing that be a mainstream thing within our middle schools and high school. There is work behind the scenes going on, taking a look at exactly what the cost would be to roll out a one-on-one type initiative at our middle schools and high schools in the year to come. But again, the focus is going to be for the rest of the current year as well as next year, building out that infrastructure so that it can actually accommodate the different devices as we move to a one-on-one type environment. But we have added thousands of devices over the last year and a half to the schools. They're well received. Students and staff who are able to utilize these devices really speak very highly of them, and that will be our continued focus in the years to come.
Jacques, a parent with a high school student, is concerned that there are no distraction-free testing rooms at the middle and high school. He has heard there is no space and feels it reflects a lack of concern for students' needs.
Thank you, Sarah. Each of our schools, all of our elementary schools, middle schools, and Chelmsford High School do offer private areas for testing. A student would have to be eligible or have that type of an accommodation listed in either their 504 educational plan or their IEP if they happen to be a special education student. But at all of our different schools, if that accommodation is listed as a recommendation in either the 504 or the IEP, the school would find some dedicated quiet testing space for a student to be able to take a test or an assessment. Again, it does require that a student have a 504 and IEP to be able to access those services. Or testing areas. We don't have any specific rooms that are just set aside for testing because of the flow of the school day and the different uses of the buildings. But if a student is on a 504 and IEP and the school staff know that, and if a testing situation comes along, then the teachers would work with the building administrators to identify a nice quiet space for a student to be able to take their assessment. So it does exist in our schools, K through 12. Each of our schools would have this accommodation if it is a recommendation, again, in the 504 IEP. And if a parent feels that their child would benefit from this type of an accommodation, it should really be brought up through either the 504 or IEP process.
Kayla McGuire, with students in high school, wanted to know if there are any plans to address the inequality of fundraising across the high school teams and activities. Given that there are a limited number of sources of funds, from families to businesses, this essentially pits various fundraisers and groups against each other. Has there been any thought to rolling fundraising under one umbrella? Could fundraising be done at the school level with the proceeds distributed based on organization needs and planned expenses?
Sarah, thank you very much for bringing forward that question. At the present time, there isn't any consideration of trying to pool resources for fundraising at the high school with regard to athletic activities or different athletic sports. As you know, we have sports that participate in the fall, the winter, and the spring. Different teams have different sizes and different equipment needs and different concerns around fundraising. One of the things that we are working with Dean Hart, the new athletic director, is to try to find some equity between seasons, because oftentimes if a team is a fall sport, they might have access to some of the fundraising earlier in the year, which makes it a little difficult for a winter or a spring sport to be able to do some of their fundraising if the ideas are the same. So there is some discussion that's taking place along those lines, but there has not been a discussion taking place regarding pooling all of the resources from the athletic teams and then kind of divvying it up by sport. And again, a lot of that has to deal with the individual sports have different number of students that participate, different needs and equipment needs, different purposes for the funding. So that discussion really hasn't taken place. I think the focus for this year and for probably next year will be just to make sure that all the different teams have equitable access to the different fundraisers and that they can run and organize their fundraisers to bring in enough funds to be able to take care of their personal sport needs.
Thank you for watching Ask the Superintendent. We hope you enjoyed the show and encourage you to send in questions you may have. If you sent in a question and did not see it here, please tune in to the next episode.